The German government has promised to thoroughly investigate whether there were any security lapses before the deadly attack on a Christmas market in Magdeburg. 5 people died and 200 were injured when a car plowed through a crowd of visitors there on Friday night. The city is still coming to terms with what happened.
At the site of the Christmas market in Magdeburg, a sea of flowers and candles for the victims. Tributes are still pouring in for those killed when a driver tore through the market at speed. The community is deeply shaken by Friday's attack. Those who come to pay their respects at the site are searching for answers.
I'm deeply shocked. It's taken a toll on me. I'm horrified that something like this can happen. Despite the bollards, despite the safety precautions, it makes no sense at all.
As the shock lingers, German authorities are investigating how something like this could happen. Especially after reports the suspect had been repeatedly flagged by multiple sources, including officials in Saudi Arabia, his country of origin. Germany's security agencies under pressure to explain why they couldn't stop the attack.
We ourselves were once the recipients of a tip-off from Saudi Arabia in November 2023. Proceedings were also initiated here. The police in Sachsen-Anhalt then took appropriate investigative measures, but it was so unspecific that in the end it could have been seen as a warning. But he was not known for violent acts.
Although the suspect had no violent history or ties to banned groups, authorities called the attacker a potential risk, but said no concrete threat set off alarm bells.
There were reports, and now it has to be clarified who sent them, when and to which authorities, how was it assessed. Only then we could say whether it was followed up or not, whether it should have been looked at again, or whether the measures that were taken were sufficient.
The investigation continues. And as residents in Magdeburg mourn, German leaders are promising swift answers.
And for more, I'm joined by DW Chief Political Correspondent Nina Haase. Nina, it's good to see you. So German officials are saying that the investigation is in full swing now. What do we know so far?
Well, as we heard, there were lots of warnings from individuals who alerted German authorities that they had to look into Talib A, and that includes members of an NGO, for example, working with ex-Muslims who had filed a legal case against him for threats on the X platform, in which he said that the German police were trying to install Islamism in Germany. And he made lots of similar posts like that on X that should have been deeply concerning, calling for Angela Merkel's death, for example. He'd also even been fined by German authorities for making threats in the past, and the Saudi government warned Germany about him. We're hearing that he got an official letter from German authorities in which they tried to deter him from breaking the law after some of the threats that he made. All of this is now being investigated, and they really have to provide answers here as to how authorities are working together, whether the information actually reaches people who are in a position to then follow up with consequences. What's challenging here is that he doesn't seem to fit in any of the typical categories. He called himself left-wing, but then supported the far-right AfD and its ideas. And what we're hearing is that there'll be a special parliamentary committee session here in Berlin on the 30th of December, where German intelligence representatives are also going to be heard.
This comes just a few months after an attacker killed 3 people with a knife in the city of Solingen in Germany. And Germany's government is facing allegations that it's basically failed on public security. What are those critics actually pointing to here?
Well, it's important to always remember that it's not the federal government that is in charge of security all over the country. Remember that both these attacks, both in Solingen and now in Magdeburg, happened at local festivities in the center of medium-sized German towns. So they are events that are about getting together in town squares where you typically don't have to pass security checks. They're symbols of the open society that Germany wants to be. You can just stroll past and have a sausage with your friends elections without having to undergo security. And organisers always aim for a balance of making it possible to have that open atmosphere, but also provide security and escape routes. And security for big events outside of town centres is simply easier to provide. If you look at the European Football Cup that Germany hosted this summer, nothing happened. But of course, you have to always double check whether everything was done to protect people. But the big focus really is on how to spot potential culprits and then prevent them from committing crimes like that.
Yeah, it's that balance between freedom and security. Now, the German far-right party AfD announced rallies today, and there's also going to be counter-demonstrations. Can you describe the political situation in Germany right now that's led to this?
Yeah, there were demonstrations over the weekend already. The AfD has called for a big demonstration in Magdeburg later today. The party leader, Alice Weidel, is expected there, so it's a big, big topic for the AfD. And that's deeply ironic, of course, because Talib A praised the AfD on his social accounts for their anti-Islam stance. But party representatives are trying to distance themselves from him and feed off that feeling by some in the country that it doesn't really matter whether Talib A was an Islamist or a staunch Islam critic, as he called himself, that many people, especially in Eastern Germany, really don't care. They want nothing to do with those discussions, with those topics that they say have been imported from abroad by immigrants. And on the other hand, you've got political parties that still represent the majority of people here in Germany that want Germany to remain an open-minded country. So we're 2 months away from federal elections in this country. This attack is definitely going to play a big role. Migration was already high up, is probably now going to overtake the state of the economy in the current election campaign.
DW Chief Political Correspondent Nina Hase, thanks for talking with us.